The United States has met its target of reducing its military presence to 50,000 troops in Iraq, but it's leaving behind a political and military vacuum that can potentially be exploited by Iran to fulfill its regional ambitions. The US was comfortable in drawing down its forces to 50,000 troops by this year because of the understanding that Iraqi security forces were in a position to shoulder responsibility for security in the country, of course, with the help of the residual 50,000 troops that will remain in the country until the end of next year. But the problem with that assumption is, A, the security forces are far from being a cohesive institution that can actually effectively shoulder the responsibility of security. And of course, they're dependent upon a political government being in place in Baghdad to be able to move towards that goal. Now, with the lack of a government in Baghdad, some 6 months after the recent parliamentary elections back in March, we're looking at a potential void. The reasons why the Iraqis have not been able to form a government are twofold. One is that the country is divided amongst three contentious communal groups: Shiites, Kurds, and Sunnis. And two is that the parliamentary elections back in March produced a hung parliament where no group came out with a majority to form a government. There are two Shiite blocs. There is one bloc supported by the Sunnis, and then there is the Kurdish bloc. The inability of these political blocs to come towards a settlement on a power-sharing agreement is what is creating the gridlock in that country. The problem with the Iraqi security forces is that they have been built from scratch following the 2003 US invasion of Iraq. The United States, after ousting the Ba'athist regime, dismantled the country's military establishment that had been in place for decades. If you look at the history of Iraq, the old military establishment took several decades to stand on its own feet. In other words, the United States has had to fast track the development of Iraq's security forces, and that coupled with the ethno-sectarian fault lines in the country, they're not able to form a coherent institution. The United States is now faced with a dilemma as to how to prevent Iran from exploiting the political and military void that's been created in the wake of the US exit from the country. The way the United States is trying to manage this is through a power-sharing agreement in Baghdad where Sunnis are able to get a sizable share in the next government. So the United States wants to make sure that in the outcome of this struggle to form the next government, that there is a sufficient balance of power in Baghdad so that there is a bulwark that prevents Iran from using Iraq as a launch pad to project power into the wider region, especially across the Persian Gulf and onto the Arabian Peninsula.